Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Crack Podcast. But listen, I'd love to introduce our guest for the night. This is a gentleman who's a friend to the room, who has experience playing for clubs like Man City, Sunderland, and finished up his career at Real Salt Lake. This guy is a multimedia. This guy is a politician.
You got a haircut.
This guy's a world-class baller, and I think he's going to be the mayor of London one day.
Hey, look how you looking around though, like you just that's me.
Oh, you talking about me? Oh, I didn't even know. Sorry.
What's up, my brother? Welcome to the Crack, man.
Hey, man, it's been a while.
What up,
waiting for this moment. Hey, what's up, D? Gucci promised me this a long time ago, bro.
Olga now, child. Relax now. Look at this.
Let me not relax.
Two Nigerians on a call. We're never going to talk, Bees.
Let him go. Let him go.
Let me start by saying this, okay? So, Gucci, you said to me, you'll give me a 5-minute warning.
Bro,
so I gave you 5 minutes.
Point to the other light skin. Light skin.
Bro, as I was waiting, I remembered Oguchi Onyewu, Nigerian, 5 minutes. I was like, what have I done?
Yo, you got a Nigerian and a Jamaican on the call.
Yeah, this is gonna be slow.
10 minutes.
Yeah,
10 minutes can be an hour, half an hour.
Yes.
Listen, brother, don't shoot the messenger, okay? Don't shoot the messenger.
Okay.
This man in a professional studio making us look bad. Look at this guy.
Straight up, right?
About to record with Babyface.
This is Babyface. This is a big moment for me, so I need to give you my best. You know what I mean? I can't be in the house with the screaming kids.
Well, thank you.
Give you the studio.
Thank you, Jesus, for cutting your hair from the COVID haircut that you had.
Listen. As I look at you right now, I want you to remain quiet about haircuts, okay?
Bro, this is it. I didn't know I could grow it out, so I'm letting it ride out until it doesn't.
Hey, Nedum, we want to have you on here to celebrate your career and all the accomplishments that you had. You know, I just want to say that, why did you come to the MLS?
Damn, start right.
This the Crack, baby.
This the Crack. God,
this the Crack, baby.
Right.
Okay. That was not the order of questions.
Okay, so for me, for everything I did in the UK, I'd made money, I'd had the experience, but it was at a point where going back to the Premier League probably wasn't going to happen. And if you stay in the Championship, it's 46 games a year, of which maybe 40 of the games are exactly the same. It's just a different jersey. Like every single week, twice a week, 3 times a week. And then I was leaving Queen's Park Rangers, and for the money that was on the table to stay in that league, it kind of opened up the whole world to me, because it wasn't money which specifically only exists in England, like it say would be in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So I said, why not try a different experience? I had, I've got 3 kids, young enough to go and travel anywhere with me. I've got a supportive wife, and I said, when I'm done with my career, I don't want to talk about spending 5 years in a Championship just fighting week in, week out. Let me talk about a different experience. Let me try and get the juices flowing again and feel something new. Because as soon as I came here, the way that the game's played is different. The way you travel is different. You know what I mean? The mentality is different. And last time I felt like this was when I was making my debut, when Bees was like 35 years old or something like that. You know what I mean? A little while back. So
this man is really trying to take over our show right now.
He is. He's taking shots at everybody. Shit.
Oh, sorry. That was my bad. I didn't know that was a shot. But anyway, so I did that. And as we're going to leave in the next few weeks, I can look back and say the 2 years have been a great experience. You know, and instead I could have been in England. I could have been making money, could have been doing whatever, because I turned down a couple of bigger money offers to come over here, but the experience wouldn't have been the same. So I've enjoyed my 2 years. So yeah, I can finish off in style.
Go ahead. No, go. What are you gonna say?
I just want to know, did he visit Utah before? Because Real Salt Lake is a beautiful city, but I'm saying, did you visit Utah before coming?
No.
So what did you know about Utah before you even came?
Okay, so why is it funny?
Real talk.
So I knew about the Winter Olympics that were held there.
Bees didn't even know about Winter Olympics held in Utah.
I know, but
how many years ago?
Was that in 2002? Don't come here with your nonsense. But anyway,
Nobody knows.
so I knew about that. But
didn't
when relax, so there's a big stigma around, say, if you want to come to the USA as a British player, they say, oh, the lifestyle of this, you want to get to New York, you want to get to LA, you want to do this. But that disregards so many teams in the smaller markets, as you know. But one thing about this place, they were saying, yeah, it's not this, it's not that. But most people I know had never actually been over here. And the way that the deal was set up was they were interested, and they were one of maybe 3 teams who had international slots available. One was LAFC, but this was in September of 2018, and LAFC said, we'll sign you till December, and then if we like you, we'll give you another year after that.
That's crazy.
And I'm thinking, I'm like a big man here with 3 kids, and they're saying, come over for 6 weeks, and then maybe you can get another year. I was like, okay. But RSL gave me till the end of 2018, the end of 2019, and if I played 20-something games, I get all of 2020. So that was the security I needed. And then from when I actually came over there, you get off the plane, you see the mountains, and you're like, well, this isn't actually too bad. Obviously, it's not New York, it's not LA, it's not wherever, it's not one of those big metropolitan type cities, but it's all right, It's not
It's
the
a
worst
beautiful
place
city, right? Real Salt Lake is a beautiful city.
For real.
Yeah.
For real, man.
I mean, I've never been.
Nightlife is popping, man. I mean,
popping.
After, from 5 to 7 p.m. It's lit.
5
He
to
said
7
5
p.m.
to
from Monday
7.
through from Monday through Saturday. Yeah, it's popping. But no, it's cool because again, for me, like my wife and I, we used to travel the world before we had kids, see everything, do everything. But then when you've got 3 kids, you ain't even got time for all that stuff.
Yeah.
So the life does exist there, but that wasn't my focus. And the kids have had some great memories, seen some great things.
Do they have American accents? Did they acquire American accents? Why?
Nope.
Yeah, not even a little bit. I think you did a little bit.
Relax. So they say certain words. But it's like, nah, I don't. Okay, it's like okay. I don't understand. Excuse me. So yeah, they haven't picked up the accent yet, and we've got another 3-4 weeks left, so I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. So hey, Nedum, you touched on it a little bit, and this is probably the most serious question we're gonna ask you on this whole show.
Go on.
You said about the mentality is different. The where you travel, the way you play, all that stuff from going into from the Premier League to the championship, then you come into America and how Americans play football. So how in your mind in the 2.5 years you were here, what was some of the biggest changes as far as that part of it, on the field and off the field?
In terms of the players' mentality, did you say?
Yeah, mentality, players from even from the club,
everything,
the players, everything.
Because you have a good landscape. You were a huge club. You're at Sunderland. You were at QPR.
Yeah.
You know the landscape.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I was very lucky to have been at Man City when they were becoming the best team in England. So I was there beforehand when they were, when we were basically like a bottom 6, bottom 7 team. But to see what it was like just before they won that first title, I saw what the standard was. I saw how players thought. I saw how the coaching staff would think and try and relay messages to players. And the thing that really blew my mind was how some of the best players in the league and in the world worked harder than anybody I'd seen before. And this was every single day. Wow. Everything was like extra competitive. There were no days off because those players knew that they were replaceable, as crazy as it may seem. They knew they were replaceable. But then you go elsewhere and you have players who aren't as good, who don't work as hard, but they're not replaceable because they're seen as a big star in the team. Coaches feel more pressure when they don't play them and things like that. So that followed me at QPR. And then when I came over here, one huge difference I felt straight away was, I remember it was the 3rd game, I think, when I was in the roster, and we lost 4-1 at home to Portland. And this is a big game for us. And it was horrible. And I looked in the stands and I could see we still had a few thousand fans that were there at the end of the game. And I'm expecting them to start booing, throwing stuff, all that good stuff. And then the game finished and the players applauded and the fans applauded. I'm like, yo, this is different. This is different. I'm not used to this. And obviously it depends which city you're in or which team you play for and all that. But in most of the places I've seen, the game isn't as life or death as it feels in other places. So as a consequence, when things aren't going well, it doesn't affect people in the same way. People make different decisions. And at times, the thing that got me the most is how it feels for some people more like it's a hobby than a profession. You're being paid to
Do you think that all these things changed your kind of output because it changed kind of the world? Look, just like you said, you're in a team, and like there's some of the average players that think they should be there or whatever. Were you? Because what I've heard from a lot of European players when they come to MLS, they get frustrated. Like that first couple months, they're just like, what the hell's going on? Like, what is this?
It's for me. I think at RSL, this and just all around the league, I think there's some really good players, and I think there are lots of players with massive potential. But whether or not they reach that potential will come down to how they coach, to how they understand the game. Because when they start to understand what the difference is between them and somebody else that's more successful, because sometimes they might realize it's not actually that much, and it could just be a bit of understanding or a change of approach. Because say physically, so many players are capable of doing it, but tactically, they make different decisions here because there's no consequence. You'll try something and your team might concede. Like, how many times would I watch highlights from an MLS game and the highlight starts with the goalkeeper rolling the ball out at the back to somebody? I'm like, I've seen this one before. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like they want to play and all that stuff, but put yourself in a situation whereby if you lose a game, you get relegated, you lose all your money, people lose their jobs, and see if you'll play the same way. See if you'll play with the same level of passion or whatever. I didn't get frustrated at all. I took it in and I started to realize that, as I say, I was in a different place. And for me, it's not about moaning. Say, Ibrahimovic, for example, would moan a lot about the league on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. But the fact is, he chose to be there. And I think from when you choose to be in that environment, it's up to you to either try and make it better or just shut up. You know what I mean? Like, you can complain.
He has a problem with Niger boys. This man.
Yeah, I know. I've heard you've had your little thing with them as well. But again, for perception on the league, I will never forget this. I think it was 2019 when the man said, I'm a Ferrari amongst Fiats. Yeah, he said that, and I was looking around in my dressing room or locker room, and people are laughing and joking. But I'm like, he's just called you a Fiat. He just said that to you. You're not on the outside looking in. You're on the inside being spoken about like you're no good. Like, that should put some fire inside you, but instead it's like, this guy, he's just so funny where, like, he's clowning you. Like, have some pride, have some understanding, and see that, as I say, he chose to be here. When you step out on that field, you both deserve to be there. You know what I mean? So just act that way. But unfortunately, I think some people miss that. But I think in my 2.5 years here, I think a lot of people's approaches have changed based on the stories which I would tell them about elsewhere. Because I think for some, they have an idea of what goes on elsewhere. But when I say to a midfielder who's not working hard, David Silva works harder than any player I've ever seen before, then what are you doing? If that doesn't inspire you to work harder again, like, maybe you're in the wrong game.
How did those American players take it when you spoke to them and was a leader that you are in the locker room and on the field?
I think I did well in this space because it was a younger locker room, but then as well, the stuff which I would say, like, not everybody can be shouted at. Not everybody needs to have an arm around them. But if you try and learn who people are, you can learn what gets the best out of them.
Yeah.
And I think some people need like a nudge, say, "Oh, go on, you're doing well," or like, "Come on, you've got more than that." Mm-hmm. Like, there's some players where I say, I felt. It's weird saying felt, but as a defender, I felt like if your attackers do well, you win the game, because they'll do well in terms of attack, but they'll also defend well from the front, which makes my job easier. Mm-hmm. So I'm constantly trying to like hype them, make them understand that it's not a them and us and a split in the team. Like, you are everything in this setup.
Defense starts with attackers. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. But some of them, they think, just the defenders or just the attackers that. So I'd say lots within the 2.5 years here, I think based on my experiences, I think I passed on a lot of messages, but in different ways to different people, depending on who they are. Because some people don't realize how good they can be, and some people don't realize why what they're doing isn't progressive. But in times they were getting it, and they got better and better individually. And I think at some point in the future, I think the fruits will bear from that knowledge.
Yeah, when you talk about, as soon as when you're talking about the mentality of some of the players that you had in Salt Lake, it's about, it felt like a hobby. You know what I'm saying? I had the same thing in Houston. I'll never ever forget this. I'll never forget this. So we're in Seattle, and we just got beat. I don't remember, doesn't matter what the score is. We lost, and me, I'm pissed. I'm going to lock the coach after the coach talked. Coach gave his little spiel about this and blah blah blah, and then everybody's kind of whatever in the locker room, and I'm sitting there chilling. I literally look over to my left. This dude already, we just got beat, already pulls out his phone and is checking his damn football fantasy NFL highlights. No. You laugh. Yo, this shit. Yo, I'm telling you. But I'm saying like that's what I'm talking about. But people don't realize. So when I was still with Houston, and I spoke about the mentality of the players of the club, that's what it was. You know what I'm saying? That's what and I put this blame on the club too, because that's what they let happen. Like, how do you as a club let stuff like this go on? You know what I'm saying? Like, you expect the players and the captain, which I did say something, but you still expect the players to say something. But like, this is what that club was about. You know what I'm saying? For a kid to really, and it's not just one person, it was a couple people, to really take his phone out after a loss. Like, don't mean shit. We just lost the game. You know, whatever, it's cool, whatever. Pull out his phone and literally look at his football fantasy scores to see if they won that week or whatever. Boy, man, I almost killed somebody that day.
It's funny because I think it goes to, we said this in another episode about culture, right? And then I don't think it's just a club culture. I think it's the U.S. league culture, right? And there's no consequences, as you said. Like, they might be cut deep if it was like, shit, we lost this game. We're 3 points down from this team that just leapfrogged us. We might get relegated to the USL or whatever.
10 teams make the playoffs. It's like, it'll be another game.
I mean, for them, there's always a redemption game, right? There's no consequences for them. Like, next week or in 3 days we can play and we'll still make the playoffs if we win the next 3 out of the next 10 games or whatever, and then we could still win the league. I think it's a culture thing until it's enforced or reinforced, whichever way you want to see it, within this league, that every game means something. And once every game means something in the league, individual teams within themselves will understand what it means to themselves and to ownership. And then retrospectively, as a snowball, it's going to take effect. But right now, it's just
it's interesting you say that, because from the 2 years I've been here, you notice it's always the same teams around the top or the same teams that do well in the playoffs. And you know that the culture within those places will be different to what it's like in other places where it's like, where you're almost like also rants. And with one thing which I tried to really talk about a lot when I was at Salt Lake was, yes, playing games is really, really important, but the culture can be set from Monday through Friday. Like, the game on a Saturday is obviously important, but in a month you play 4 games, but they have 16 training sessions. If the training sessions are competitive from Monday through to Friday, it's almost impossible you'll step out on a Saturday and do something different. But if people are sloppy from Monday through Friday, you're more likely to get a sloppy performance on a Saturday. And that used to drive me insane, because if you step out into training and you're giving everything, you're paying attention, you're like locked in, going out on Saturday is automatic. It's called training. You're training
like
for Saturday.
Yeah.
Exactly. Instead of just passing time before the game on Saturday. And I think at times, within my camp and probably all around the league, people are probably just guilty of that. And that's the hobby thing again. Like, I want training to be fun, but training for me is fun when my team works hard and we win. That's as sad as it is for someone of my age. Like, do keep ups and whatever, that's great. But if you work hard as a team, you do the right things, you make the right decisions, you win a 5-a-side or whatever, like, that feels great because you've earned it. And you take feelings like that into the Saturday, and you know that when you go to war again, people are going to be doing the same things they've done for the 4 days previous. So sorry, I'm ranting a little bit. I apologize.
Nedum, you need to stay in America and reform this Real Salt Lake club. I think.
Listen, the club is changing. I think the club is changing. I think, given the stuff that's happened this year with ownership and so on and so forth, and the fact that the player group is so young, I think they'll
speak on that a little bit. Speak on that ownership a little bit.
Well, I will do in a second, but seeing as though like the club he's got a lot of younger players in, some players who stepped up from the Monarchs team, which is in the USL, and they're developing. This was a tough year for them, and I don't think overall we were fully ready to be able to embrace the challenges of this year. Like, this would require a really experienced, high-end type team, I think, to thrive in this type of situation. But I think in years to come, when things are more favorable to them, based on the experience that they've had this year, I think the talent pool is literally not a million miles away from teams who are further ahead of them. So anything is possible. But yeah, back to the ownership issue. So I
Look at him trying to find his words.
I get because I'm both trying to be correct, but then also realize
No, wrong
I'm
show.
retired and
Wrong
I'm
show.
leaving.
Don't do
Yeah,
political.
No,
just gotta put it out there.
I'm going
This
towards.
family here.
This is not the kickback, man. This is the crack.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Big shouts to the kickback.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So for me, like, say that I got the owner kicked out of the club. I didn't. He said what he said, and I called it out for being wrong. You know what I mean? Like, the words that the man put forward himself are the reason why he has to sell the club right now. And people should never, ever forget that. And some of those views and stuff that he's probably had for such a long time, but nobody would ever say anything, because one way to be ultimately successful in his country is to be exceptionally rich and to underpay your workforce, because then if they say something, then they'll feel like they're going to get kicked out. And the need for them to have a job is far greater than the need for them to be in a better working environment, which is what essentially it felt like had been going on for years at the club. But this time it was just a step too far. Because as you saw, because I saw you've interviewed, is it Wesley Matthews, when they boycotted the game earlier in the year? Like, that was such a big, significant day, not just in sport, but like almost American history, where something happened. Like, how often does everything come together and everyone's unified? You know, that was such a big, big moment. So then to find yourself the next day being criticized by somebody who hadn't even spoken to you as a team, you think to yourself, like, what is this? Because if you had the chance yourself to, you know, if you were looking for a job and you knew that the owner of whatever business had the views that this person had, maybe you wouldn't want to go and work there. But now you're in that situation, you're wondering, like, what is this? Is this what matters the most? The money thing is a bigger issue to him than this moment in history that's just happened here. And I just thought, nah, that's not right. So I said what I said, and he got so much pushback in the morning for what he said that he came onto another radio show in the afternoon, and he was dancing so hard. Yeah, I didn't mean this. I just want to do this. Like, he was crying and all this stuff. And
you made the man cry.
No. Listen,
Yeah, that's not the first man he's made cry. Look at this man doing push-ups before this show right now.
No, listen. As far as the guy goes, like, he's very, very well off, and that's something which put me in a place where I don't really have sympathy for him. Like, he's exceptionally well off. So when he says he has to furlough workers and this, that, and the other, I'm thinking, no, you don't. Like, no, you don't have to do that. That's what you're choosing to do.
Right.
But people get brainwashed and they think, well, you know, we're not playing at this time. You know, we've got to think about why does he want to pay us? Why does he want to do this? And I'm like, if you had $100 million right now as a person, you are hella rich, but you would still be $900 million away from being a billionaire. And this man has $3 or $4 billion to his name.
Holy shit.
Don't show him sympathy, because he can afford to pay whatever he wants to pay. He can afford to do it. Don't make it seem like he has to do this, because he doesn't. That's what he's choosing to do. Because at the end of the day,
put him out of soccer, man. You could have invested in the crack.
Listen, stay in the country, man. Stay in the country after the elections. I think you're good.
You know,
hey, we got a position at 4NFC if you need a
no, thank you. I'm busy.
Don't make me
It's like that. Wow.
Yeah, sorry, man. No, we'll talk off.
Wow, no respect.
But this is
zero
things about the MLS again. So the guy, he has to sell the club and so on, and that's because he does take pride in the club overall. Like, he prefers the women's team to the men's team. That's something I've seen clearly for the whole time I've been here. But the fact that he will make a profit and then just walk away and still own a third of Utah, it's like, what type of punishment's that?
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like anything at all. But yeah, he I think he ran himself out, and he's just gonna have to live by those decisions. But he's gonna his pile of money is just gonna get that little bit bigger once he sells the club.
Definitely. Hey, Nedum, this is the crack, and we jump all over the place. I'd like to know a little bit about your upbringing. You know, I know you come from obviously a Nigerian family, so obviously you come from a strict home, but what was your outside life for you growing up as a kid? Did you have a silver spoon like Oguchi and Onyewu?
Wow.
It's silver spoon.
Oh,
I can
whoa,
barely
whoa!
afford a silver spoon now.
Before you answer that, before
Wait,
you answer that,
Nedum, just sit back. This is what they do. The light skins, they go back at each other.
Go on,
Just
then.
sit
Go on,
back.
then.
Just
Attack.
sit back.
You're going
Go
on.
ahead.
I need you to redact that statement
Here we
before
go.
proceed
Here we go.
any further.
If it's not true, you don't have to redact it. Go ahead, Nedum. Tell us about the life of upcoming in your upbringing in London.
Okay, so
What part?
first it was in Manchester. It was in Manchester.
Manchester,
but
sorry.
one thing to describe my childhood and being Nigerian is, so when I go back to Manchester in December, I can go to my dad's house, and if there are dishes in the sink and he tells me to go and clean the dishes, I will go and clean the dishes. As a 34-year-old male, I still have no say when it comes down to that sort of Nigerian hierarchy. Okay, so if that's me now, imagine what I was like as a kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were. So I was born in Nigeria. Went to Manchester in the early '90s, and I'll be honest, England in the early '90s was an interesting place to be, especially as the only black and an all white deprived neighborhood, basically.
Yeah.
You know, we had a few issues, heard a few things, saw a few things, had a few burglaries, all that stuff. But we got through it as a family. We worked hard. My mom and my dad, they were working 2 jobs to try and help us even just survive in that space. And it was disappointing because my mom, she before she passed, she had a PhD in environmental sciences. So this was Dr. Antonia Onuoha. But she'd apply for a job and be like, nah, you're overqualified. Nah, you're overqualified. Nah, you're overqualified. And these were for jobs which she could have, you know, she was just trying to do to just help us be able to afford something.
Yeah.
And as I say, it wasn't to hear those stories from her and to see the stuff that she had to do. Like when she first came over, she was putting like adverts into newspapers, just sliding those brochures and stuff in there. That's what she was doing. And then my dad was working as a teacher during the day, and then as soon he'd have 2-3 hours at home, and then he's going to work for the mail service for 7-8 hours through the night. You know, they were up against it, and at the time, you know, we thought, oh, this is a lot. But as I got older, I started to realize like they gave us everything that they could. And yes, myself, my sisters, we all went to a private school, but there was nowhere. Looking back, my parents couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
We had nothing. Yeah. Even when we were leaving our first house, I remember that it was a week before, and we were just sleeping on the floor. You've got like slugs and snails coming onto us and all this stuff, and
So,
it was just normal.
With education being so key, how do they feel about you taking a career path of not going that route and pursuing football?
So for me, yeah. So I joined City's Academy when I was 10, and I was playing every week. I was one of the main people in my age group for the whole time I was there, basically. But I was only allowed to do it if I was doing well in school.
Yeah.
So whereas you hear some stories where people would be like, yeah, you know, I raised my kid. He always wanted to do this. This is what he dreamed of. I couldn't dream of it because I wasn't allowed to do it if I lost my focus. Literally, all I was doing was going to school. And if I did well enough in school, it meant I could play on the weekend. So playing on the weekend felt like I was playing with my friends. So all the years of passing, I was doing well. And then when I went in full time as a youth team player, I was still in school to the point where when I made my debut at 17, I was still in college, finishing off one of my subjects.
Wow.
So the things were going on at the same time. And only after having 1 full year as a professional was I able to step away from education and literally just have that as my focus.
When you say college, you mean high school or uni?
Well, I think according to your logic, it was from 16 to 18.
Right.
So whatever that would be, yeah. So I did my, yeah.
They call it college.
High school over here.
It's different,
yeah, I know.
But it's a different qualification because this was the last qualification you get before you go to university.
Yeah.
But that was a full-time thing, and I did well. Like I got top grades in maths, business studies, and information communication technology, and I was delighted, whilst also playing at the same time, you know. And it's a strange time because I remember the relief when I didn't have to do any more education because I think I was almost burnt out. But yeah, that made a big difference for me because if I didn't do well in school, I'd have been finished. Like my dad, I'll never forget. We did our GCSEs, which is the qualification you do when you're 16, and I got 8 A's and 2 B's, and the highest grade is an A star. So I got 8 A's and 2 B's while being a footballer. Yeah, 8 A's and 2 B's. I got in the car.
You said it 3 times. We heard
just so people understand the context. I got 8 A's and 2 Bs.
Yes,
I
He's
got
never got
in the car
8A.
with-
Yeah, right.
I got, listen,
2
I got in the car with my father, and he did not speak to me for the whole car journey back
The
because
2
he
Bs.
expected
Bs.
all A stars, the Bs and no A
Wow.
stars. So the pressure I was under when I went to the next stage at college, and I ended up with 3 A's, and that was the highest mark. But my word, that I will never forget that car journey back because I thought I am a failure. I thought I am a failure with 8 A's and 2 Bs,
Wow.
which
Two
were the
Bs.
highest marks of anybody in my academy. But you know, it's just about your perception, isn't it?
I mean, coming from a Nigerian household, I do know the importance of education, which is why I'm 38 and finishing my uni right now, right? Even though I
Yeah,
don't
for
have
sure.
to. But I think, to your credit, you're a well-spoken, well-versed, intelligent man despite anything, right? And I think you know that. I think you dress things in a very articulate manner. You play, you're a gentleman, despite some of the knocks you throw at me. I'll give you a gentleman title. But also, I do believe it's important because you just kind of highlighted how you came from a very humble background, right? And nobody
Yeah, for sure.
would have ever, like fans or people, they only see the outcome. They don't see
Yes.
the process, right? And they don't
Yes.
see what someone had to overcome to be successful. They just see them being successful. You know what I mean?
For
So
sure.
for me, it's hats off to you, brother, because
Yeah.
a lot of people in your position maybe would have kind of dropped under pressure.
It's like you say, it's the tip of the iceberg. You know, the amount of stuff that really goes into seeing someone or whatever is seeing someone play or whatever. You just want to judge them based on what they do on a Saturday, but how they got there. Like people always going through things, and as a player, sometimes when you go out and you're not 100% fit, but you're doing it for your team and you're working hard for your team, but then you get judged and people say, "Oh, look at him, he can't even run anymore. He's no good." But your heart's actually bigger than their perception of who you are as a person. But one thing you mentioned actually, which is I think quite important, and something which I've seen in the last few years as a black male in this country specifically, is when it comes down to delivering a message. I think if you're not articulate as a black person, you can just be pushed to the side and get just the angry black person trope. And I hate that. I really, really hate that, because there's certain times where you're really passionate about something, but you can never really express yourself in that same passionate manner. You have to dance around certain things because the moment you say one thing that goes too much one way, people tune out completely.
Cancel.
And I hate that. I hate that. But over the years, I've learned to dance, and as long as it keeps making a difference, I'll keep doing it. But people speaking to me in
People
public
look at you
compared to
as a
seeing me
threat.
on the TV, yeah. If you see me in public compared to seeing me like on TV or whatever, I can have a completely different conversation with someone. But unfortunately, when the cameras are rolling, you've got to try and include as many people as possible, and people who probably don't deserve to be spoken to nicely. You have to, otherwise, if you don't have the support, you have nothing.
Since you made that transition in terms of the black man's perception in America, what would you feel is the biggest difference growing up in the UK and now experiencing a little bit of America in these last few years that you've been here? What did you think of the difference in regards to the black man's perception?
I think as a black male, some of the stuff that I can see out in the open in the United States only really exists on the fringe in the UK, because you don't have the same conversations about freedom of speech, about right to protest or whatever. And say everyone's entitled to get the news sources from wherever, and ultimately every news source is backed by somebody, so it'll lean in one way or the other. But to know that the biggest news shows in America, Tucker Carlson's show, Laura Ingraham's show, and Sean Hannity's show, I find that deeply troubling, because the stuff that they say, I think a lot of those people, they're actors, they don't believe what they say. But it separates people. Yeah, exactly. But it separates people. And that hurts me, because you don't have those personalities back in England who have that type of audience out in the open, who are believed 100%. Like even in this moment now, we have thousands of people, maybe hundreds of thousands of people, who believe what one of the president's aides just said, and who said that he won the election by millions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Like, how? What was? You know what I mean? Like, am I in some sort of alternate universe? But they're adamant; they believe it with all their heart, and it means that, say, as a black person, when you're marginalized anyway, some people like this year, they don't want to separate. Some of the actors don't want to separate the Black Lives Matter movement from the Black Lives Matter organization. The Black Lives Matter movement itself can
From
involve
looting.
absolutely anybody. You can just say it, and that's your belief. You don't have to believe in the policies or whatever of the organization itself. And that ultimately is why sport and other groups have gotten behind the sentiment of Black Lives Matter. Yet still, when I see some people who have the biggest audience, they say what they want to do. They want to abolish this, want to move that, want to remove this, want to remove that.
Burn
No,
down
there's some
burn
person.
down the cities. I mean, I think that those things
Exactly.
are dangerous and align that with Black Lives Movement, which is not the two. I tell people protesters are not looting. It doesn't go
Yeah,
hand in hand.
exactly.
Ridiculous.
Exactly. And even, again, with some of these actors, the concept of hypocrisy, I guess, doesn't exist, because when we were kneeling during the season, some people would say, you know, you should keep. I remember someone shouting, keep
Separate.
politics out of sport, keep the two things separate. Yet for history, it's shown that it hasn't been. But then when is it Covington, the fighter, wins his fight, next thing he's speaking on the phone to the president. Find me something more political than speaking to a president directly after you finish your sporting event. That is like the ultimate, you know what I mean? But you don't see anything wrong with that. Yes, we can peacefully assemble, but you can't, because you're going to burn down our cities. And I think as I say, I've been rambling a little bit, but as a black male, if you really, really open your eyes, as sad as this is for me, I believe there are too many people in the country who don't want change. So as a consequence, change won't come, because it feels like on one side, like if you want change, you need to go to a blue district, you need to go to a blue state, go to a blue city, like an unequivocal one, and you'll find it there. But other places, they don't believe it. Like I got sent a meme the other day, which said, and listen to how wild this is. I got sent a meme by one of my friends in Texas, and she's one of us, you know, she's with it. But there was a meme at the top. It had a black cowboy and a white cowboy, and it said racism in the United States was disappearing because people were coming together to call out people with those views. Yeah, and I was like, okay, anyway. And then the picture underneath was a picture of Barack and Michelle Obama, and it said everything was going well until these two came along and set back racism 100 years.
Mm.
And I'm thinking to myself, what's that?
Illusion, man.
Yeah, like what? But what do you mean?
I mean, at the end of the day, the racism, ignorance is an illness, right? And it's embedded within the thread of this country, whether people want to believe it or not. Equality, or the idea of equality, or any oppression of any kind of marginalized demographic, ultimately threatens the other demographic that was on top, right? So you can see people that don't want change because they feel as though, if something changes, then my lifestyle is going to be a lot less comfortable because somebody else is more comfortable, right? And I think that's a big problem within this country. And I'm curious, because I lived in the UK for about 5 years, but every country has its own kind of difference.
I know what you're trying to say. And within the UK, if you want a really, really diverse place to live, you move to London. But if you don't, then say you end up in somewhere in the northeast, like Sunderland, because it's in some ways it's similar to like this state itself in Utah. If you in downtown Salt Lake City, I think they voted 60-70% for Biden over Trump, but the state itself carried itself at 70% red, because the rest of the state is however it is. Where will you find the most diversity? Downtown in Salt Lake City. But the places where they don't have that diversity, they stick to what they know and stick to what they do. Because I think when it comes down to it, people, maybe they vote in their own interests, but there's a distinct lack of empathy. Because for me now, walking around here as a black male, to know that more people voted for Donald Trump this year than 4 years ago, based on the things which we've seen this year, and then to see some of those talk show hosts say, this isn't this, nah, you're not seeing that, that's not what that was. Like when the kid shot the protester in Kenosha, then all of a sudden he's got $100,000 for his bail to try and, you know what I mean? Like that, in my head, logically, that doesn't make sense. But for everything that gets said out in the public, for everything that gets said out there on some of these shows, it's for an audience that wants to hear it. When you're seeing people on the streets now saying, Fox News sucks when they've been with Fox News for like 4, 6, 8 years.
No,
Like,
I love that now because they saying that Donald Trump lost, or they're conceding to Biden. All of a sudden, they're fake news now too. So it shows you that, but it shows you that it's a choice. It's a
yeah,
choice.
100%. But
You know what
they have a significant appetite to sit that far right and to think that that's reality. Like you can sit with all like one thing about life in general, whatever. I think you can look up information and actually get facts about things. You don't have to just listen to one source. Like because I'm here and I can't vote, I hear what the left is saying, hear what the right is saying, and I'm like, okay, this might be believable, that might not be believable. That's a lie. That's the truth. That's a lie. You know, you can get a feel for what's going on and not feel attached to any particular party because you can just take it in. But as I say, when it comes down to certain issues and certain things, like someone saying to us the election was rigged. All right, cool. So the burden of proof is on you. Show to me how it was rigged. But they were like, no, show to me how it's not rigged. I'm like, bruh. what do you mean?
But it's funny because they say the election was rigged, but yet the Senate is still Republican. So if you're going to rig something, why don't you rig it the whole way down, right? Like, go all out.
Gooch, that makes too
Exactly.
Gooch, that makes too much sense, Gooch. That makes too much sense.
I don't want to be that guy who says certain people can't think for themselves. But you're seeing certain people can't think for themselves. They voted every 2 years for their whole life. But this year, this was the year that was different. Why can't people say, you can have Trump as the person you want to vote for, fine. But get out of your bubble and realize Donald Trump rubs a lot of people up the wrong way. Biden is president, not only because people like Biden, but people hate Trump. That's why more people voted this year.
Bees could have won
it.
this year against Trump.
Shit, hey, there was 7,000 people that voted for Kanye, goddamn.
Don't get me started on him, man. Don't get me started on him, please. I beg. Please, no, not him.
Free easy.
Oh, don't, man. Don't.
Stimulus package includes one pair of shoes.
Straight up.
Yeah, listen, stimulus package. You want to talk about that? Flipping, you got $1,200 a few months ago with your taxpayers' money.
Nedum, stay in America. Stay in. Why are you leaving? No. Listen to me.
Because I can track this from a distance.
Listen to me, Biko. Listen to me now. Stay in America.
No, I'm good. It's been I've enjoyed myself here, enjoyed my time here, but there's certain things here which are wild. There's nothing quite like driving down the road and seeing Trump flags, Blue Lives Matter flags, all of those flags, and you're like, okay, cool. So I have to avoid him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think Nate, if you played in DC or New York, you might have had a chance to stay. But the impact of Utah during these 2 years, where it's been to the heights of
totally fine. It's totally fine. Like I get people have their views, and it's fine. It's cool. Do whatever you want to do. But me as a black male, having seen the things that I've seen this year and seen energy otherwise, like, and seeing what people are saying on the right, seeing what people are saying on the left, like my neighbor where I live now. I walk past his house most nights to go and take stuff into the garbage or whatever, and he watches Fox News every night. So I think to myself, does he think I'm going to come and try and rob his house one day because of what's being said on there? Because I heard Tucker Carlson say earlier in the year, what are you going to do when they come for you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, am I they? Like, this guy think that this is what's going to happen? And it's every night. He's religious with it every night. And the bottom line is, you don't have to watch it. There's not only one channel on TV, but that's what he wants to consume. So he immediately gets me on the back foot. And unfortunately, as we've just seen, millions upon millions of people see certain things which aren't necessarily for the benefit of people like ourselves.
There you go. I'm Nathan. Let's transition a little bit back to football before you have to run out. I know you got kids and a wife and you got things to do.
Yeah.
But throughout your illustrious career and playing for Man City and QPR and Sunderland, tell us a little bit about the players that you stands out in your mind when you look at your career of players that really make an impact in your game.
Made an impact in my game. That's tough, you know. I think obviously the best moment I had was when I was at Man City. So you were surrounded by Vincent Kompany's, David Silva, Sergio Aguero's, Carlos Tevez's, Zeko's, Joe Hart's, and these guys, they were unbelievable. Their work ethic was unbelievable. It was really inspirational to be around them and see how hard they worked to be number one. You know, it didn't just happen by accident.
Yeah.
These guys were all in every single day, from being in the gym before training to being in the gym after training, doing extras after training, going out to the training field, being competitive. Like they were all in. And it was, as I say, it was incredible to see. And I was sad to leave it, but that's just the way the game works. So then I went to QPR, and there were some good players there, but the club itself was.
Just say it. Just say it. Just say it. Just say it.
In that, no, I can't say it.
Just say it. This is the crack. This is the crack.
No, you say it. You say it. I'm not gonna
He's trying to go back home. He's trying to go back home.
The thing with QPR at the time is it's like an 18,000 seater stadium, and in that moment it had money, but it's still an 18,000 seater stadium. And as far as West London goes, you've got Chelsea, who are the biggest team. You've got Fulham, who's got more of a better recent history than you had us at QPR. And we'd spent X amount of years in the Championship and League Ones or whatever before 2012, 2011, 2012 when they came up. So the identity itself is realistically should have been a small club coming up to the Premier League, who would have just been working hard, doing whatever, always being the underdog. But then all of a sudden we were bringing in players who were getting 2, 3, 4, 5 million a year and stuff like this. But they were still playing in an 18,000 seater stadium in West London as an underdog in West London, let alone in the Premier League. So the identity of the club was all over the place. Like I'll never forget what they used to do. I don't know if they still do it. Is when you sign, they take you to the stadium, take you to one of the suites, and you look out and say, "Oh, this is cool." And then you sign, and day one you go to the training ground. You're like, "Bruh, what is this?" Because the training ground itself was Chelsea's old training ground, and nothing had changed from the time when Chelsea left there 5, 6, 7 years previous.
Wow.
And went to their new training ground. I remember stretching on the clear as day. I was stretching in this little cabin thing. I looked underneath one of the treadmills. There was 10 years of dust in there. It's like, yo, this is different.
Nedum, tell them about the how the training facility was at Man City before
the money.
All the money got there.
even before they got to Carrington, they were training out of a facility at Platt Lane, which was open to the public. Because I remember when I was in the academy, like you could use this building at certain times, but on a Wednesday at this time now, you guys can't go in there because public are in there, and that was a professional team. But then we went across to Carrington. The facility was tired, man. It was just a sports hall basically. There was nothing good for it at all, nothing. But one thing you missed, Bees, was I think when Mark Hughes was there as coach, there was one international break, and this is when the Arab money came in. And in the space of 10 days, they completely redid the whole space in 10 days.
Wow.
I remember looking out the window. There were 50 to 100 people every single day in that space. And guys went away on international duty, came back, and it was a new training ground. It was nuts. But the training ground was nothing. When we finally left, it was better. But then you look at their facility now, and when they were getting ready for that, they were sending people around the world because they wanted the best facility on everything. So they were looking at NFL, they were looking at soccer, they were looking track and field, everything. They wanted the best facility in the world for any sport.
Wow.
And when it first came out, I think they absolutely hit the nail on the head with that.
Let's talk about hitting that nail on the head, right? This big head, Damarcus Beasley, comes over to play with you at Man City. It's American kid. He weighs $130 wet. What was your first thought process when you teamed up with Damarcus?
When I was back then, and to be fair, still now, like I used to watch European soccer. Like I was all in, so I was excited to see someone coming over who had his history. Yeah. I didn't necessarily know his status from when he was first coming through in the MLS, but I knew this is Mr. PSV or whatever. Yeah. Like this is a guy I used to watch, and he's you and Farfan and people like that. Bro. PSV back in the day, like through that stretch, that was my team. You were my team. Yeah. Like I was all in. So I was excited. I was a young guy, and I was seeing these people coming in. I was like, I know this guy, I know this person, I know this person. This is so cool, man. Yeah. And he came in, and the club in that time, because you don't know any different, was a shambles, but it felt fine. It felt normal, and it felt like we were heading in the right direction by bringing in people like him. I remember as well, we brought in, I think we the same year as Trebelsi from Ajax.
Yeah, Trebelsi, from Ajax. Yeah.
Again, that was another guy I'm looking at. We're buying players from PSV, buying players from Ajax. I'm like, yo, like this is it. This is it. I was so wrong, but I thought this is it. But like I say, it's for me in that moment, it was great to see people who I've seen playing at the highest level elsewhere coming into the share the same space as me. And I was young, I didn't have the biggest voice, I wasn't like a massive part of the team. But I think you become a better player for a Saturday by playing against better players throughout the week. And the way he came into the team, it gives you a different challenge. You have to be your best. And that's what it's like. When I left City, I thought to myself, if I can play against Yaya Toure, Zekos, whoever's on a day-to-day basis, like what am I worried about when Saturday comes? Literally, there's nothing to worry about. So you were part of my growth at that point, firstly from playing with you, but being able to play against you because you were bringing something different to what we were used to, because I was only a few years removed from academy football.
And then I think you and Gooch played together at QPR, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah. That was
hold on, but now you're a veteran, right? Now you're established.
Yeah.
Now you have this damn American come over here who
So I'll give you the real story about when I came to QPR. So when I came to QPR at that time, it was Nedum, it was, what are those two older players, center backs?
Yeah,
Richard Dunn, Clint Hill.
Richard Dunn and Clint Hill. So
Richard Dunn,
they were whatever, they were there. But at the time, Nedum was like injured, his knee. And so they didn't know how long he was going to be in, be out, whatever. And so I came in there, because they didn't know that.
Yeah.
And when I spoke to Harry Redknapp or whatever, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to come in there for one of the two, Richard Dunn or Clint Hill. And they weren't losing. So it was hard for him to actually move anybody as stiff as they were or whatever. The team was not losing. So I was just sitting there week in and week out. I'm just like, all right, what am I going to, and I can't really complain because they're not losing. And then finally, towards like November, December, I was like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta play games. That's when I went to Wednesday. But every day seeing this bodybuilder in the gym trying I'm asking this man, I'm here sitting there wondering, why is he playing soccer? He's trying to do the strongman competition, doing muscle ups with people on his back.
No. That was, I'm glad you reminded me of that time, because that's when I really got into calisthenics. I was with Bobby Zamora, and we had a little movement for I think it was a year. Yeah, it's like a year from that point. But yeah, when you came over, you're right. The team just kept winning. They were doing so well, and it's hard. But as a professional, sometimes, especially as a humble professional, if people are playing well and people are winning, then you just gotta sit there. You just gotta take it. Doesn't matter what you feel about yourself. Like,
how frustrating that is, Nedum, because I look at your career though. Every time I saw that you were getting your groove and playing games and being yourself, you get injured. That
was probably the first 4 or 5 years of my career.
Yeah.
But it was worse because even if I wasn't injured, sometimes I'd be next in, and they would never let the next in go, especially as a young player coming through the academy. So it was disappointing. But then as I got older, I got to a point where I barely missed any games at all. Definitely. But yeah, it was tough. But
I wanted to play with you. I wanted to get that pair right there, because I thought we would have been dope. We would have been Black Death in the middle right there.
But
Nigerian Eagles.
But, yeah, look how QPR was at that time though. Like, we were easily the best team in my opinion, best squad in the league in that season. But we still only managed to scrape through in the playoffs or whatever. This says a lot about
championship.
Should I say management, or I don't know, maybe.
Say it, buddy. Just say it.
Perhaps.
So Harry Redknapp
ain't gonna say it.
Gooch ain't
gonna say it. So
Harry Redknapp,
you ain't gonna say it.
I will say that Nedum was right, that there were players that felt that they were above QPR, and so as a result of that, they didn't give their all. You know what I mean? They training, they weren't there. They're like, I think I'm gonna leave in the winter to go to whatever club. I'm like, can we play here?
But you're here now.
they were always thinking of somewhere else besides where they were at that moment. I'm like, why'd you guys sign here if you don't want to be here, if you're not going to give everything? And that frustrated me, because these are the ones that are playing and they don't even want to be there. And I'm sitting here like, I want to play, and so without saying it, whether it's management, whether it's ownership, whatever, that there was something, there was a cancer-esque
Yeah.
type vibe within that club at the time.
Yeah,
But-
man. But
Yeah, for sure.
What-
For sure.
what
We
I-
saw some sights in that time.
the question the fans all want to know is that how do you compare championship with MLS? Is it getting closer? Is it far off? You can't compare.
No, I think you can compare, and I would say that there are plenty of players in the MLS who could play in the championship, but I think there are more championship players who can play in the MLS because as far as the MLS goes, in terms of being in a really competitive environment, you've got some really good soccer players or whatever, but they don't know what it's like to literally have people throwing stuff at you when you arrive at the stadium and attacking you. Like when we got killed by Colorado this season, and myself, Albert Rusnak, because we've been in Europe, you just went into hiding because that's an embarrassment.
Yeah.
But some of these people, they might lose a game in the championship and then just try and carry on about the business. Like, nah. That's not the way this works. That is not the way this works. So yeah, I think the standard isn't a million miles away. But then I think at times as well, you do get some good players who do come out of college. But the fact that, say, you could be 22, 23 years of age, just playing your first season,
Yeah.
that's unheard of because you won't get the same. If you try and play in Europe and someone said this is your first season, you're 22, 23, no one will afford you the opportunity.
In the top league.
Yeah, nobody will afford you the opportunity because a rookie or whatever is 17, 18, 19.
Yeah.
At 22, 23, if you're barely called a prospect at this point because you're bedded in. Like I spoke to Tom Huddleston, who's the same age as me, he was a midfielder for Derby, and he had played 95 games before he was 19 years of age.
That's a Tottenham
That's
player.
what you're up against. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 95 games before he was 19 years of age. So how does he compare to a 23-year-old who's going to make his first start? You can look and say, oh, this guy's a rookie, but you won't. If someone says they're 23, 22, 23, you're like, nah, it's not for us.
Don
So as I
Garber,
say, the mentality.
Don Garber just texted me. He said he's gonna call you tomorrow. What are your exiting advice to MLS as a
To who? To him?
No.
Before the
MLS in
exit
the league.
advice, I want to
Not
know.
personal.
I want to know what you want to do now that you're not playing. Like, what are you going to do since you don't want to stay in this country and do it?
I'll begin by making it very, very clear. I'm very, very privileged to have made enough money to not have to work anytime soon. So with that in mind, with that in mind, yeah, exactly. Thank you. You know what I mean. I worked hard for this, but with that in mind, I'd like to be able to, firstly, spend some time with my family and see my sisters, see my father, see my father-in-law, see my mother-in-law, see all those people who, from when we moved out of Manchester in 2012, we've not seen continuously before. But that life there, coming back with 3 kids, that's what I want to experience. Oh. And in terms of things that I can just fall into, there are lots of media opportunities which are available, which I'll do. But I want to enjoy whatever I do next, not just do it because I have to. And I'm not one of those guys who will miss. I don't miss training. I don't miss games. I don't miss being told what time to be somewhere and what to wear. Like, that doesn't concern me at all. So I've got no desire to go into coaching or management or being in that environment. So as I say, just distance myself from that and just be a civilian and just enjoy being that for a little while and then see what happens. And as for, go on.
No, for me, I think we need to end on that. I mean, just by you stating that and that freedom, that saying that you've made enough money, you can do what you want to do. I think that's amazing.
And be a civilian.
Be a civilian.
I want to be a civilian for my whole career. I promise this to you. At no point in my career or in my life have I introduced myself to somebody as being a professional soccer player. Like, I'm Nedum. I've kept that energy so that when this moment would come, the only difference between yesterday and today and tomorrow is the fact that tomorrow I don't have to go into work. Everything else remains the same.
No doubt.
And that's all I wanted. Walk away from the game. Don't limp away, and walk away and be able to just be yourself. And I'm ready and excited for it.
That's gonna be a quote. That's gonna be a quote right there.
Yeah, man. I say we ended on a positive note. I think we want to to come here and applaud you on your career and the man you have become. And for now, I'm calling you doctor, because that's what you would have become if you didn't choose to play for the second best team in Manchester. You know, my brother.
Listen, you're wearing a
Easy.
shirt, so no one's even listening to what you're saying.
Yeah, right. That's what I told him in the beginning. I already told him that.
Listen.
Oh man, but enough love, brother. I know that you're gonna do other exciting things. I know you're gonna get bored real quick, so you'll be active and just make sure you come back to us little media people once you
listen.
You go back to
no,
Europe.
it's an absolute
us.
pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure to be a part of the biggest podcast in the USA. How about that?
Oh shit, this guy.
Just keep that US visa active, buddy, just in case you call
Yeah.
back.
Listen, you think so? With the president being in charge till January 20th, you think I'm going to be able to leave next month and keep that green card?
Hey,
thanks, guys.
Yo, much love, my brother. We appreciate you.
Yeah, man, appreciate it.
Looking forward to see your life as a civilian.
Yes, sir. Me too. Thanks very much, guys.
All right,
Respect, brother.
We
Man,
cool.
take it easy. Yeah, man.
Yes, sir.
There you have it.
He was dropping knowledge today.
Scholar.
Oh, man. As we expected from him, you know.
Yes, sir. But hey, Goose said when he get going, he gonna go. You already knew that.
So I was hoping that he wouldn't pull the handbrakes that he did.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes he's like, I can't say this. I can't say this.
Yeah.
But, nah, man, Nedum's one of those stand-up dudes, man. Real talk.
Man.
Can't say a bad thing about him. Proud of him in his career.
Definitely.
And even proud of him and how he's viewing his after career. You know, just wanting to enjoy his family, his life, and be a civilian, as he says. You know, and just live life.
And Goose, that's what you bust your ass for, right? So I gotta salute that, to be able to be in this position, you know. And then the person, I'm sure he had good investments, dealt with his money properly. So you know, he's an intelligent man. So I salute that. I think we celebrate that. But footballers who want to be professional soccer players and start that path, make sure you hit up Fort Wayne FC. Also, January 3rd to the 10th, we have Onyx Elite, which is a camp that we've been doing for over 4 years, which is for professional players and players who want to be professional, to chance to get a preseason and also a look at from scouts to agents. I mean, we got sponsorships that come along. We also have good training and getting yourself ready and prepared for the season. So make sure you go to onyxelite.com. And as well, the best holiday gift you could ever give somebody is a footballer product. So make sure you go footballer.com and make sure at the end of the day, everybody stays safe. All right. As Goose just said, I love y'all. One love and peace.
Peace.